Day 3 of the Trump removal crisis, where you see the political bureau of Twitter go quite simply insane and cast aside even their pretenses to law or bylaw and order. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is another Declaration of Truth from your host, Terry A. Hurlbut. On Monday afternoon, beginning at 10:06 a.m. Pacific Time, reporter Barry Weiss released the last thread describing the removal of Donald Trump. By every indication, the Twitter Trust and Safety team acted by fiat, not by any rule then in effect. Worse, on that last day, we saw a mass formation psychotic episode coupled with power intoxication among Twitter staff. World leaders everywhere reacted in shock and surprise and dismay. But only on November of this year did anyone correct this slight. Before I describe this in detail, I do want to shout out to the prime sponsor of this channel, which is Conservative News and Views. Link in the description. Be sure to check out the awesome CNAV Store. Scroll down near the bottom for that link. Lots of great merchandise there, especially this t-shirt that I have chosen for today. Portrait of Donald Trump with the caption, "The Great MAGA King." Yes, of course it's a repeat. This is part 3 of a sequence. With this, it closes. One more thing. If you like what you're about to hear, you can like this video. You can also click the bell icon to get a notice every time I come out with a new one. In fact, do you see the little icon, that heart shape with the US dollar sign inside it? That's the super thanks icon. If you really want to keep these videos coming, click that and leave me a tip. Any currency will do, so long as it's legal tender. I begin with the last 2 tweets on the Donald Trump account. These appeared on January 8th, 2021. Thanks to Elon Musk releasing the account, I can link to them in the description, and I have. Here is how they read. 9:46 a.m. Eastern Time. Quote, "The 75 million great American patriots who voted for me, America first, and make America great again, will have a giant voice long into the future. They will not be disrespected or treated unfairly in any way, shape, or form, triple exclamation point, unquote, Donald Trump." Then, about an hour later, quote, "To all of those who have asked, I will not be going to the inauguration on January 20th, close quote. He has not used that account since, not even after Elon reinstated it. But more to the point, do you see anything in those words that could possibly so construe as to incite violence? Because I do not, nor in the tweets that still survive before it, nor I maintain in any of the screen caps from his account that Mike Schellenberger and Matt Taibbi preserve in their respective threads. Bear this in mind as Barry Weiss' thread begins. As ever, I've left links in the description to every other tweet because each is a reply to one before it. And I am going to read the whole thing out loud to you now. Thread, the Twitter Files, Part 5, the removal of Trump from Twitter. On the morning of January 8th, President Donald Trump, with one remaining strike before being at risk of permanent suspension from Twitter, tweets twice. In the next two tweets, Ms. Weiss quotes the text exactly as I have done, except to give times in Pacific time rather than Eastern time. Going on. For years, Twitter had resisted calls, both internal and external, to ban Trump on the grounds that blocking a world leader from the platform or removing their controversial tweets would hide important information that people should be able to see and debate. And here's a quote from one of them. "Our mission is to provide a forum that enables people to be informed and to engage their leaders directly," the company wrote in 2019. Twitter's aim was to protect the public's right to hear from their leaders and to hold them to account, close quote. But after January 6th, as Matt Taibbi and Mike Schellenberger have documented, pressure grew, both inside and outside of Twitter, to ban Trump. There were dissenters inside Twitter. Maybe because I am from China, said one employee on January 7th, I deeply understand how censorship can destroy the public conversation. But voices like that one appeared to have been a distinct minority within the company. Across Slack channels, many Twitter employees were upset that Trump hadn't been banned earlier. After January 6th, Twitter employees organized to demand their employer ban Trump. There is a lot of employee advocacy happening, said one Twitter employee. We have to do the right thing and ban this account, said one staffer. It's pretty obvious he's going to try to thread the needle of incitement without violating the rules, said another. In the early afternoon of January 8th, the Washington Post published an open letter signed by more than 300 Twitter employees to CEO Jack Dorsey, demanding Trump's ban. We must examine Twitter's complicity in what President-elect Biden has rightly termed insurrection. But the Twitter staff assigned to evaluate tweets quickly concluded that Trump had not violated Twitter's policies. I think we'd have a hard time saying this is incitement, wrote one staffer. It's pretty clear he's saying the American patriots are the ones who voted for him and not the awful bad guys. I mean, we can call them that, right? From Wednesday. Another staffer agreed. Don't see the incitement angle here. I also am not seeing clear or coded incitement in the DJDT tweets, wrote Annika Navaroli, a Twitter policy official. I'll respond in the elections channel and say that our team has assessed and found no violations in the DJT one. She does just that. As an FYI, safety has assessed the DJT tweet above and determined that there is no violation of our policies at this time. Now later, Navaroli would testify to the House January 6th committee. Quote, for months I had been begging and anticipating and attempting to raise the reality that if we made no intervention into what I saw occurring, people were going to die. Close quote. Stop right there. Did you notice what Barry Weiss turned up? A key member of the trust and safety team changed her mind, but then tried to pretend that her mental state had always been what she said it was when she testified to that committee. That, ladies and gentlemen, is perjury. But, as I've said before, it is par for the course for the Bill of Attainder Court that was and is the House Select Committee to investigate the January 6th event. End of digression. Next, Twitter's safety team decides that Trump's 7:44 a.m. Eastern Time, actually a specific time, tweet is also not in violation. They are unequivocal. It is clear. No violation. It's just to say he's not attending the inauguration. To understand Twitter's decision to ban Trump, we must consider how Twitter deals with other heads of state and political leaders, including in Iran, Nigeria, and Ethiopia. In June 2018, Iran's Ayatollah Ali Khamenei tweeted, Israel is a malignant cancerous tumor in the West Asian region that has to be removed and eradicated. It is possible and it will happen. Close quote. Wow. Now, Twitter neither deleted the tweet nor banned the Ayatollah. In October 2020, the former Malaysian Prime Minister said it was a right for Muslims to kill millions of French people. Twitter deleted the tweet for glorifying violence, but he remains on the platform. The tweet image comes from the Wayback Machine. Now, I didn't get a Wayback Machine late, but I'll take Barry White's word. She went to the Wayback Machine and produced an image. Moving on. Muhammadu Buhari, the president of Nigeria, incited violence against pro-Biafra groups. Now, for your information, Biafra is the name that the Igbo tribe, a tribe that has received the Christian message, chose for their attempt at a breakaway republic from Nigeria. I remember reading about this in Scholastic Company's My Weekly Reader in the 1960s. Those of us in the fields for 30 months who went through the war, he wrote, will treat them in the language they understand. Twitter deleted the tweet, but didn't ban Buhari. In October 2021, Twitter allowed Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed to call on citizens to take up arms against the Tigray regime. Twitter allowed the tweet to remain up and did not ban the Prime Minister. In early February 2021, Prime Minister Narendra Modi's government threatened to arrest Twitter employees in India and to incarcerate them for up to 7 years after they restored hundreds of accounts that had been critical of him. Twitter did not ban Modi. But Twitter executives did ban Trump, even though key staffers said that Trump had not incited violence, not even in a coded way. Now let's stop here, because I need you to take a break before you hear this next part. Before I share that, I want to let that sink in. And second, because I want to shout out to a sponsor who can really help you through the economic storms to come. That sponsor is oursilverlines.com. Do you feel that you're working harder for your money just to get by? You're not alone. Fluctuating economy, employment issues, unexpected changes in life have left many families struggling over the past few years. Collecting gold and silver can help shield you against many of these challenges. But if you're like me many years ago, you don't know where or how to start. Our Silver Lines helps by connecting you with thousands of members who are learning the secrets to creating and protecting true wealth by collecting precious metals. Maybe you just want to collect rare and unique coins. Or maybe you're an entrepreneur, you want business opportunities, this company's got them. Either way, they can help you learn to live an exceptional life. Visit oursilverlines.com to learn how you can build a legacy for your future. And now, the not-so-grand finale. Quote, less than 90 minutes after Twitter employees had determined that Trump's tweets were not, repeat, not in violation of Twitter policy, Vijaya Gadde, Twitter's head of legal policy and trust, asked whether it could in fact be coded incitement for further violence. A few minutes later, Twitter employees on the scaled enforcement team suggested that Trump's tweet may have violated Twitter's glorification of violence policy. That is, if you interpreted the phrase American patriots to refer to the rioters. Now that's their word, not mine. I'm not even sure that it was Barry Weiss's word. Things escalate from there. Members of that team came to view him as the leader of a gang responsible for violence and deaths comparable to the Christchurch, New Zealand shooter, or Adolf Hitler. And on that basis, and on the totality of his tweets, he should be deplatformed. 2 hours later, Twitter executives host a 30-minute all-staff meeting. Jack Dorsey and Vijaya Gadde answer staff questions as to why Trump wasn't banned yet, but they make some employees angrier. Multiple tweets, meaning Twitter employees, have quoted the banality of evil, suggesting that people implementing our policies are like National Socialists following orders, relays Yoel Roth to a colleague. Now, this same Yoel Roth once spoke shortly after Trump took office of actual National Socialists in the White House, as if to say that Trump was running a National Socialistic regime. Dorsey requested simpler language to explain Trump's suspension, and Roth wrote, God help us, this makes me think that he, meaning Jack Dorsey, wants to share it publicly. 1 hour later, Twitter announces Trump's permanent suspension due to the risk of further incitement of violence. Many at Twitter were ecstatic and congratulatory. Big props to whoever entrusted safety is sitting there whack-a-moling these Trump accounts. By the next day, employees expressed eagerness to tackle medical misinformation as soon as possible. For the longest time, Twitter's stance was that we aren't the arbiter of truth, wrote another employee, which I respected, but never gave me a warm, fuzzy feeling. But Twitter's COO, or Chief Operating Officer, Parag Agrawal, who would later succeed Dorsey as CEO, told head of security Mudge Zatko, I think a few of us should brainstorm the ripple effects of Trump's ban. Agrawal added, centralized content moderation, in my opinion, has reached a breaking point now. Outside the United States, Twitter's decision to ban Trump raised alarms, including with French President Emmanuel Macron, German Prime Minister Angela Merkel, and Mexico's President Andrés Manuel López Obrador. Macron told an audience that he didn't want to live in a democracy where the key decisions were made by private players. I want it to be decided by law, voted by your representatives, or by regulation, governance, democratically discussed and approved by democratic leaders. Merkel's spokesperson called Twitter's decision to ban Trump from its platform problematic and added that the freedom of opinion is of elementary significance. Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny criticized the ban as an unacceptable act of censorship. Whether you agree with Navalny and Macron or with the executives at Twitter, we hope this latest installment of the Twitter Files gave you insight into that unprecedented decision. From the outset, our goal in investigating this story was to discover and document the steps leading up to the banning of Trump and to put that choice into context. Ultimately, the concerns about Twitter's efforts to censor news about Hunter Biden's laptop, blacklist disfavored views, and ban a president aren't about the past choices of executives in a social media company. They're about the power of a handful of people at a private company to influence the public discourse and democracy. Unquote, Barry Weiss, who ends with a list of all contributors. Mike Schellenberger, Isaac Grafstein, Susie Weiss, Olivia Reingold, Peter Savodnik, and Nellie Bowles. As I said at the start, this is a textbook example of mass formation psychosis, which is what you get when a single person or event strikes such terror in so many hearts that a mass of people act without thinking. Dr. Robert Malone has alleged that this phenomenon persuaded people to accept lockdowns as the only way to stop the virus that shall remain nameless, except in the state of South Dakota, whose governor disclaimed any authority to do any such thing, or the Republic of Sweden, whose leaders simply decided not to exercise any such authority, whether they had it or not. In the Twitter case, we see people already suffering from Trump derangement syndrome, multiplying that manyfold in response to what they convinced themselves was the near overthrow of the government, and what their favorite president-elect told them was that. The ecstasy that Barry Weiss documents in her various screen caps is more than any sense of relief. Those messages do not say, we dodged a bullet. They say, ding dong, the warlock's dead, meaning Trump, not Raphael Warnock, senator from Georgia, who's also been called Warlock, but for different reasons. Furthermore, this experience emboldened them to make themselves arbiters of truth. They boast of this specifically in reference to the virus that shall remain nameless. This is the power intoxication component. And though Twitter staff threw all their civic lessons to the winds, many outside the country did not. The French, German, Mexican, and Russian voices speak volumes. Since when do non-Americans care more about freedom of speech than Americans? Since January 8, 2021. That's when. Reaction has so far been mostly positive. One user quoted earlier sharing of a video making clear that present staff err on the side of freedom of speech. I have a link to that in the description. The Daily Mail has the best reportage outside of Twitter. Their headline, which speaks of activist staff, says it all. Twitter banned Trump when activist employees compared him to Hitler, and head of policy said his term American Patriots could be coded as an incitement, despite execs saying that he did not violate policy, and while dictators could keep accounts. Indeed. On Twitter itself, Charlie Kirk shared at 4:58 p.m. Pacific time an email dissolving the Twitter Trust and Safety Council. I have a link to that tweet in the description, and also a link to a tweet by Ann Collier, who, together with Leslie Podesta, yes, one of those Podestas, and Erliani Abdul Rahman, resigned in bitter protest last week. They actually accused Elon Musk of making Twitter less safe for minors. The goodbye and good riddance tweets come back thick and fast in reply, asking in so many words, Whiskey Tango Foxtrot, were they? When off-color images and videos of children stayed on the site while everything else was going on that Barry Weiss described yesterday, and that Mike Schellenberger and Matt Taibbi have described before this. The dissolution of the council comes after the resignations, but also comes on the very day of the release of the 5th installment of the Twitter files. The Post-Millennial reported the full particulars of the dissolution and the protest resignations. Now, haven't I told you all before what Ian Fleming said about coincidence? Once is happenstance, twice is coincidence, and the third time it's enemy action. In any case, the removal of Trump was only the first such instance. After that, Twitter removed several conservative accounts in a manner one can only describe as arbitrary and capricious. Today, the medical misinformation policy is no longer in force, and banned accounts continue to come back. But the next question is whether President Trump has a cause of legal action for breach of contract. Thus far, he has announced no such action. Only time will tell. Link in the description to the article, to the last 2 Trump tweets, to Barry Weiss' thread, to the tweet by the user touting freedom of speech, to Charlie Kirk's tweet announcing the dissolution of the Trust and Safety Council, to Ann Collier's tweet of resignation, to my Declarations of Truth Twitter account, and to Conservative News and Views. I've also left links to the awesome CNAV Store and to oursilverlines.com, as I also mentioned. You know already about how to like a video, turn on notifications, and leave a tip. On the end screen, I'm going to leave a subscribe link to my channel and a link to my new Twitter Files playlist. This to my video I did when Trump returned to Twitter, and just to make sure you don't forget, my video about Twitter and Facebook being state actors. This is Terry A. Hurlbut delivering another declaration of truth and reminding you to let the truth set you free.